Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 47. I'm Josh Hart, sports editor here at the Daily News. I'm here with Jason Leskiw, Preps reporter.
Hello.
We're here to talk a little bit about some playoff implications that recently got announced from the Southwest 2B League, and then we'll also give some kind of interesting debate on what local player we'd start our offense and our defense around if we got to build that from scratch. And then later on in this episode, we'll have an interview with Kelso Jr. Josh Webb and Senior Riley Noah. They have a big matchup with Evergreen this week down in Vancouver. That's never an easy place to go. What did you guys talk about?
A lot of things. We talked about playing linebacker. We talked about team chemistry, and we also talked about kind of how the success that Kelso's had in so many sports. You know, that bar is raised, and you have to live up to that now. And so far, it's certainly something they've done.
Yeah. Jason, you're going down to that Evergreen matchup. Like I said, it's never an easy place to go down to Vancouver and try to win a game. You even saw last year, Kelso was able to edge one out 14-7. You know, what do you expect in that matchup?
I kind of expect a little bit more of a dominant performance from Kelso. They're really good this year. They were good last year, and they lose. I think I would say the best quarterback, especially as a passer, best quarterback in their league. Best running back in their league probably also with Max McDaniel, and somehow they look like a better team this year. Now, I mean, we're early in league play. I'm curious to see them against Mountain View.
Yeah.
But so far they look darn good.
Yeah, defensively they're just so sound. You know, you got a lot of big dudes up front that are willing to push the pile, but you also had to wonder how that linebacking crew would perform. I mean, you lose Bryce Miller and a couple of those other guys in there that have been such key performers over the past few years, and leaders too. And that some of those guys, Seth Sotheby, Josh Webb, Gage Bloomfelt, Riley Noah, have all really kind of stepped up to the task of kind of filling in for those guys, and they've really performed well on that side of the ball. Well, since we're talking about defense, let's start on that side of things. If you were to build a defense from scratch, which local player would you start your defense with?
It would be Riley Noah. You talk about a guy with size and speed. That's hard to find. I was talking with Coach Amrine yesterday, and he mentioned his GPA is right around the top of the class, and and he's football smart. And that combination is very rare. I think you see it when you watch a Kelso game. There's one or two guaranteed highlight plays from Noah every game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on Twitter and find plenty of Riley Noah highlights on defense. There's just a certain fire he plays with. It's weird. You talk to him, he's a nice guy, smart kid, friendly kid. He clicks into a different gear on the football field, and that's obviously what you will like in a defensive player. He's my number two. He'd be the second choice. Okay. I mean, you make a lot of good points, and he's certainly right up there. I can't look past Joey Tripp. I know he's undersized, but the kid just plays with a certain. I mean, you talk about Noah's fire, and it's there too, but Joey Tripp has this certain dimension he clicks into. 13 tackles against Klatskanai. He just, especially in big games, he has this extra level, this extra gear he can kick into. And when Tim Warren says he's the best player I've ever watched, and that's saying a lot because I coached it against his brother, that's a big compliment. I mean, there's a reason he was our All-Area Player of the Year last year. He does a lot on both sides of the ball, but defensively, just the way he captains the middle of the defense. Coach King says he can get a little fiery sometimes. He can have some arguments with the coaches because he wants the ball in his hands. He wants to be the one making the plays, but teams have to game plan specifically to send a lineman or two out there to make sure that he's not in the backfield blowing things up. So he'd be my number one pick. But yeah, Riley Noah's certainly right there. Who are a couple of other guys you consider?
his teammate Josh Webb.
Yeah.
Just super quick, and that's I think in modern football, having quick linebackers is a must,
right.
and there's just not enough of them. And then third, Kenyan guy who made he was a linebacker on our preseason all-area team, and his thing is just the guy doesn't take anything off. He's interviewing him, he's going 100 miles
right.
an hour. That's kind of how he plays, and so that's something that it's one of those intangibles that I love to see.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. I was looking up the stats for Woodland for your story that's running in Friday's paper, and he has 42 tackles, which is like 3 off the team lead, but he has 5 of those are for loss. So that's huge. He's obviously getting into the backfield, making a difference, and that's where your linebackers aren't going to have a ton of sacks unless you're Kelso, where they specifically scheme to have those outside linebackers come in. But they're blowing things up in the backfield. Outside of Noah, another guy I really would love to build the defense around is Easton Craig, right? Sure. Another Rainier kid, but 6'6", 270. They have to send two linemen at him, or he's blowing things up. I mean, you better not run to that side of the line either. And they switch. Him and Logan Kaiser will flop, mid, right before the play is about to start. I mean, that's really hard to scheme against, and just kind of I love his drive and his tenacity to get better and not just be a big body, but also be quick and get to the ball and all those sorts of things.
You gotta love his attitude.
Yeah, I mean, super smart kid too, and you don't always see that from D linemen, but you gotta like him. Another guy I think is underrated defensively, and another guy, and a defense I look for guys that play with fire. Dawson Fritz.
Oh, sure.
I mean, as an offensive player, he's certainly a weapon to be used. As a defensive player, he's able to make those tackles that those last ditch tackles where you're like, if he doesn't make this, this guy's going for a touchdown. He's able to do that. He's able to inspire his team. He's able to play with that just kind of competitive demeanor that you like to see in defensive players, and that's as much for his leadership as anything, just the way he's able to kind of motivate and inspire guys, and obviously has a lot to do this season on defense with Noah Mejia out. So he's going to be huge for Mark Morris down the stretch if they're trying to get past River and Morris or River and Woodland in one of those playoff spots. Obviously, they hung tight with River right there till the end. So this is a good team this year, and I think a lot of that starts with Fritz. Offensively, who's the guy?
Alex Dyer, quarterback. Got to start with the quarterback, in my opinion. It's a tough. It's really a 3-horse race. I think locally, a lot of people think Dyer and Flanagan. Mm-hmm. I also on the list added Cole Dorman of Nacelle, and it's tough because he plays 8-man football. Right. It's hard to determine how that might translate, but the kid makes throws.
Yeah.
And that's what playing quarterback's all about. Dyer has that kind of that Joe Montana coolness to
right.
him. He's composed at all times and able to mount comebacks, and obviously Flanagan leads the state in total yards at I believe any classification. So it's a pretty big deal.
Those are a couple of those guys you mentioned right off the top of the list. Alex Dyer would be my guy. Just he's so accurate and efficient with his throws, and a lot of that has to do with the scheme and some of the passes they give him to throw. But he's not going to miss his target often. Mm-hmm. He's a smart guy. He's a good leader. He's really, I think, grown in the leadership department over the past couple seasons. But I just love his ability to scramble and continuously look downfield. Yeah. The play is never over when you're chasing Alex Dyer. He's not going to take off and run on you when he gets into the backfield. He's going to evade you, and he's going to look for that pass. He's going to look for those guys getting open. And when you're playing Alex Dyer, you have to defend for 12, 13 seconds. That's impossible to do, which is why you see Kalama score so many points. Yeah. So that would be the guy I start with. But like you said, Tyler Flanagan has so many tools to work with, and just he's impossible to guard, right? I mean, he's done everything for Woodland. this season, and yet teams still can't stop him.
Right.
You know, he just has. I've really been surprised and impressed with his arm this season. You didn't know what it was gonna be like. You knew he could run, but yeah, he's certainly that dual threat guy you love. I like that you mentioned Cole Dorman. He wasn't on my list, but I think he goes a little bit underrated because he's out in 8-man.
Yeah.
They changed an offense for him. You know, they really scheme and change that offense for him, and that says a lot about him. I'm going to go with a couple other guys here. I actually have Easton Crape on the offensive side of the ball too. You can just run behind the dude, and I think so much of line play can be so influential. I like Easton Crape, David Perry, Todd Hansen. Those type of guys, you know, can really impact a team. And so I wouldn't mind starting with a big old lineman either. And I think Easton Crape's the top of the list. Another guy I think would be an interesting way to build an offense around is Jacob Bruce out in Clatskanie.
Yeah.
There's just so much he can do. Now, he's mostly been kind of lauded for his return ability, and that was obviously, I mean, it was interesting in the Rainier game in the first half. He didn't touch the ball, but he gave Clatskanie the ball in Rainier territory each time because they were trying to squib it, and now you give the team an extra 30 yards just because they don't want Bruce to touch that ball.
Right.
And that's kind of the influence that Bruce can have on the game. He's so versatile, so quick. I think that would be a fun offense to build. I don't know if it would be the best offense, but I think it would be really fun.
Okay.
And I kind of like him in that spot as well. Any other guys you wanted to mention?
Yep. Webb at running back, followed by Quentin Nelson, and then two more Wahkiakum guys. Actually, it's you know, obviously they run first offense, but these two guys are extremely quick. James Anderson and Chance Cothran. Cothran, being as young as he is, if he can stay as fat, if he can, you know, put a little bit more meat on his bones, and I'm sure that's going to happen. You know, and also keep that quickness and the agility that he has. He's not going to be. I mean, that's going to be a guy that is never going to be touched, let alone tackled. So.
Josh Webb has really been impressive this year as a running. He had moved out, I believe, to wide receiver the past couple of years, and to get some semblance of play time there. And man, stepping back into running back, the kid has been massively impressive. I mean, just a real breakout candidate back there, and you know, Kelso needed it. So yeah, he's done a great job back there. Now on to kind of some of the news of the week. The Southwest 2B League announces its crossover with 7 playoff spots now awarded to the district, which is a good thing, I think, because there's so many good teams from the district. But it complicates things. So the matchups are as follows. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to take 4 from each division. You're going to match up 1v4s, 2v3. So Mountain 1 plays Coastal 4, Coastal 1 plays River 4, River 1 plays Mountain 4, Mountain 2 plays Coastal 3, Coastal 2 plays River 3, and River 2 plays Mountain 3. Big news. Big news from this, as far as the matchups of the crossover go, is that for the 3rd straight season, Mountain 1 gets Coastal 4, and River 1 gets Mountain 4. Now, because of the way the leagues have shaken out, Coastal 4 has, for the last 3 years, and particularly this year, been the weaker of between Coastal and Mountain. Coastal 4 has been the weaker 4 seed of those two. So you have Mountain playing that Coastal 4. Now it's supposed to be a 3-year rotation, which has drawn some ire from coaches of why isn't this a rotation? Why has it been the same every year? Obviously this year it's a huge impact, because if you're River 1, you're having to play a top 10 team in the state in week 10 for a chance to go into the state
first
playoffs.
Round, yeah.
And that's what's kind of frustrated coaches, particularly in the River division. Sean McDonald voiced his concerns on Twitter. I talked with him more in depth about it. He's just frustrated. It's a 3-year deal that's supposed to rotate. He's frustrated it hasn't rotated. They're going to have to play on Alaska or Rainier or one of those teams, for yet again. And that's not an easy task.
No, it's not.
And as he was saying, he goes, I get it. Everyone will say you got to beat everyone. You got to win all the games anyway to win a state title. But the margin of error becomes so much more narrow in those games. 1 or 2 plays can make a difference. You just look at, the state first round matchup between Kalama and Adna last year. I don't think anybody denies Kalama was the best team in the state last year, but 1 or 2 plays, that's a different outcome.
Well,
against Napavine, 1 or 2 plays, that's a different outcome. When you're playing good teams each week, when another team gets, a de facto bye, it's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's what Adna's going to get. I presume Adna's going to be top of the mountain, and I think pretty much everybody else does too. And they get, there's no gimme, I guess.
Right, they get like North Beach or South Bend or something.
They kind of get a gimme, and so.
Yeah, it's frustrating. The other part of this is that the 2s and the 3 seeds that lose get a tiebreaker game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
We've also been informed that if a 1 seed loses, you also get thrown in that tiebreaker. A 1 seed hasn't lost since this became a thing a couple years ago. So now you've had 6 1v4s and a 1 seed hasn't lost.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't anticipate that to happen. But if a 1 seed was to lose, you fall into that tiebreaker, which alleviates the concern. But they all go for that 7th spot into state. Now, what's interesting about this was part of the rotation deal, right? For this 3-year agreement that they had when they came up with this league was that you would rotate, the seeding. So Mountain 1 wouldn't always get the top seed from the district. Mm-hmm. River 1, you would rotate it.
Right.
But each of the past 2 years, they've changed that seeding to avoid division-on-division matchups.
On the fly.
And
the week of last year, right?
Yeah. Well, no, they do it before week 10 because they can predict it out.
Okay. Almost a week of then.
Right. Yeah. So 2 weeks before, but then also this year seeding doesn't matter.
Right.
Which makes Sean McDonald was very upset about it when I talked to him last night. He goes, well, this whole argument of, this is a 3-year deal. Well, part of that deal is nullified because of the new state seeding committee. All those teams get reseeded anyway. So it doesn't quite matter what seed you are out of the district because it's null and void. And it's all just a kind of a big mess because now you have to play Thursday games. That's going to have an impact, right? Playing Thursday games. Then those tiebreaker games, right, are Saturday. Now the tiebreakers, you're going from 20. Technically, you could be over in 2 plays. Mm-hmm. You're going from 25 yards. It's similar to Kansas tiebreaker. So that's not a huge deal, but I think those Thursday games are a big deal because they have to have everything done by Sunday for the seating committees.
Well, and here's the other point, and this is, saying that this, don't jump to conclusions necessarily when this is mentioned, but the 2 coaches that have gotten a better into this the last couple of years are also the only 2 ADs who are also football coaches that are affected by this.
Right.
At Adna and PL. And so, there obviously coincidences happen, but there's when this type of thing is discussed, if you're a coach and an AD, you're gonna, I would expect to fight a little bit harder because you have so much invested in it. There's that added emotion which affects things.
Yeah, I don't think it's intentional. Like right. I don't think Casey Johnson and PLAD are conspiring to make this
right.
unequal. But you're right. They do know the intricacies of it. They know and they can fight for they can kind of push for their team a little bit more as they're supposed to do. That's what the AD's job is at a lot of these meetings is to push for your school.
And they're probably going to be able to argue it better too.
Right. And then you have other ADs, like McDonald talked about, and he wasn't saying anything bad about his ADs that he's had, but he's had 3 different ADs in 5 years. Mm-hmm. They just don't know, how everything works yet. They're still getting a feel
right.
for the league, for what's gone on in the past, for, how things should go in the future. They're still meeting with their, football coaches and discussing, hey, what would you like? Well, all of these things. there's an expertise that you gain when you're in the job for a while.
Right.
And for a lot of especially at small schools, sometimes you have a little bit of a rotating AD, sometimes, and that's particularly been the case for Kalama.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that Kalama's kind of got the raw end of the deal the last few years. And that's of no fault to the ADs. They just don't have that expertise in that field. Yeah. If Kevin Wright's there for, another 5-6 years, I'm sure he'll be able to argue just as well. But he hasn't been in that position long enough.
Right.
So it's kind of a mess. McDonald's hoping, in this final year of the classification cycle next year, this 3-year deals of this rotating thing is over. Now that they know the state seating committee, now that it's well in advance, they know, last year, it's kind of popped up on them a little bit last minute. They know it in advance. They can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
He's hoping for the best. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. But if a Mountain 4 comes up and knocks off, Kalama or Toledo or whoever wins that river, I think there's going to be some interesting questions, especially because remember the tiebreaker. You might as well toss a coin, right?
Versus
right, because the best team's not always going to emerge from a tiebreaker.
Right.
So especially if a 1 seed falls, I get it, they lost that game, but you'd like to see them advance on the strength of their regular season. But the interesting point about that too, with the Thursday game and the Saturday tiebreaker, what if you have a situation like a couple of years ago where you had Mossy, Wakayakum, and Tootle all tied for 3rd place in the River Division? You're playing a Monday tiebreaker, followed by a Thursday game, followed by a Saturday tiebreaker. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of football in a week, and a lot to prepare for as a coach too.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, you got to be astounding to emerge from that.
Right. So I don't know the right solution, but they had certainly considered some other things, RPI, different things. Mm-hmm. To seed this all out, but you gotta. I understand Sean McDonald's frustration because Kalama's got the raw end of the stick 3 years in a row, and I think he's right. Something has to change here.
Right.
So, that's kind of the Southwest 2B League discussion this week. Obviously, you have a big one with Kalama Toledo this week. Both teams trying to be in a position to capture that league title. That should be interesting. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we'll jump right into our conversation, or Jason's conversation with Josh Webb and Riley Noah of Kelso, and we will see you next week.
All right, welcome back to Preps Plus Podcast. I'm here with Riley Noah, Josh Webb, Kelso football and basketball. No baseball for you. Okay. Not quick enough as far as
it's not
tempo.
the speed. The tempo's not the same.
Can't run hook and ladders.
Right. All right. Yeah. Well, since you guys mentioned it, let's talk about that hook and ladder Friday, or those 2 hook and ladders Friday, but especially the touchdown. I was telling Steve, it's like you never see that work at any level. It seems like, but it did, and at a crucial time just before halftime. I guess when the play was called, what was going through your guys' heads?
Let's get after it. Let's go score. We practiced it in practice and stuff, but
one time
out of the whole season. So let's get this time.
I don't know. It was just kind of I don't know. It was we knew we'd execute it, but it was just a matter of if they knew what was coming, because it was at the end of half and we thought they were going to be sort of bad time, but
yeah. I'm guessing it would be fair to say that you guys would be expecting it on defense.
No.
That's true.
I mean, we did see it run it in scouts at previous games, so we knew when they ran it, we expected something, because we knew it was going to single receiver in the back was swimming out. So
you just don't really see it a lot.
Yeah,
right.
It's hard to execute. So
right. Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, especially the football being
Yeah.
halfway through the play, going up in the air. What was the toughest part? Or was it? I mean, it looked seamless. Did it feel that way?
It felt smooth. I mean,
Yeah.
it felt like better going. Oh, this is all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
It felt better.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, your season has been pretty seamless so far. What's been the biggest part of that so far?
Honestly, I would say our line's just been killing it. We arguably have one of the best line in the league, so when up front's working and everything else seems just to flow. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, we worked hard all summer and we still work hard, so when it comes game time, we're in really good shape. So.
Okay. So you guys have Evergreen this week, but then after that, at some point, you guys have Evergreen. Last year's game was obviously down to the wire. Maybe a bit painful. Does that, having that in your memory, especially as late in the season as that game was, when you have to go this time around, is there that to it?
I mean, for me, it's like do or die time. Like I want to get a league title like in my high school career, so especially for football. So I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. I'm not saying that this next game is not going to be important. We're going to have to take care of business, and we're going to have to take care of business. But I mean, it's all riding on that Mountain View game, I feel like. So I mean, just means like start preparing yourself now to face better opponents in the future.
Okay. Kelso's had a ton of success in the last couple of years, like a ridiculous amount. You got baseball, softball, football, cross country, swimming. Down the list, pretty much every team's had really good seasons. Where do you think that starts?
Honestly, with our coaches, I feel like our coaches are experienced. They've gone, I mean, together, all of our coaches, I feel like have 100+ years of experience, like in football, and also like across the board. Like, I mean, most of these guys were alumni, so you see them come back, and they're like, I mean, it means the word Kelso Highlanders means something to them, and they always want to strive to get better. So that's what I feel like they expect high standards, so that makes us want to expect high standards for ourselves.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I think they install like the hard work into us, so they know what it takes to get to that kind of level and succeed at the level we've succeeded at. So, yeah.
Is there a feeling of like, hey, we have something to live up to at this point? Like there's a higher standard of play that has to happen?
Yeah. I mean, the word Kelso you hear Kelso, you used to think, oh no, like, I mean, years past, Kelso's like been kind of a dormant, but they won a state title. So when you hear Kelso, you can kind of get recognition. And I feel like last year and the year before, we had more recognition than we did. So we're kind of having to like live up the hype. Same with basketball. Basketball, we have an outstanding season last year. So this year, come basketball time, I feel like we got to live up the hype, like bring the thunder.
And that's just like every night you go in and you know you're trying to win it, and everybody has that same goal. So when you go with that attitude every night, then good things happen. Succeed.
Okay. The turnover as far as football goes from last year to this year, there's quite a bit of turnover. You got the quarterback, especially as good as Hogan was. McDaniel, again, top player in the league. Was there, come summer, was there any apprehension or, I don't know, not worry, but, that sort of thing where it's like, hey, we got to have some guys really step up, and who knows what will happen?
Yeah, there was definitely big shoes to fill with the players we had last year and just all of our seniors. And then it was also a leadership role too that people needed to step up. So, yep.
Yeah, with Max going to PSU and AJ off wrestling, I mean, those guys were off. They're college athletes, and we needed to figure out. So year coming this year, we need to get in the weight room. So we got to get ourselves ready come game time, so that we're able to fill those shoes.
Was that fuel to the fire at all?
I feel like it should have been. Yeah. Like if it wasn't, it should have been. That's what I feel like.
Because there was no spots that were already taken up. There was people competing for those spots, and it still is like that in practice. So
Okay. Offensively, you guys have been impossible for any other team so far to stop. What's been the key to that? I know you guys mentioned line a little bit. And, is there anything else?
Honestly, our scheming, like coaches know exactly where who should block who. If they slant, bury him, and then just gotta read it. So I mean, honestly, I have to say coaching because coaches spend hours every weekend going over game film. Like they say, 5 games a weekend. Like we're looking play by play. So I mean, when they spend that much time, I feel like they got dialed in.
Okay.
Yeah, they do a great job. We go all week and go through all of our opponent's plays, so we have a good understanding of what to do when that time comes.
Okay. And my understanding, and I didn't get a great chance to see this firsthand, but Joe's play calling has changed a bit. It is how I understand it over the last couple of years. Is that something you guys have seen?
Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel like we, just with like the weapons we have, not only with Josh but just everywhere else on the field, he can go to people and know that there's a chance for something big to happen.
Okay.
I've only been starting 2 years, right? Unlike Riley. Riley's been in the program a lot longer than me. So, I mean, last year I was mainly receiver, so I didn't really get to understand the whole concept of the line and what we're doing up there. But if Riley says that, then Riley says it, so I have to agree with him.
Right. Okay. There's that saying that it's Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's, which I think I'd agree with more often than not. But at the same time, like compared to the NFL and Matt Ryan with Kyle Shanahan and without Kyle Shanahan, right, is probably the best example. It's like you got one guy who's an MVP, and then the next year he's just utter garbage.
Yeah.
Kind of what I'm leading into with that is, what do you guys feel like this? Usually in a good team, there's some symmetry with coaches and players. Where you guys can be on the same wavelength mentally, and also, you have that understanding of what the coach needs you to do for, what everybody needs to do in order for a play to kind of culminate. Is that what's the symmetry been like?
Well, I mean, so it's not only like football, we spend other sports with our coaches, and we're like together a lot, so we have a good understanding of we just have good chemistry between all the coaches, because I don't know, it's kind of like we just hang out a lot. It's just like our
second
buddies.
family. Yeah. I absolutely agree. Like Coach Kinch comes with me from football to basketball, then also to track. So he's always in there saying, work hard every rep. So you always have that here, like, if he's out here, Joe, you gotta go. So you always know what he wants you to do. And I was the same from Amron. He's like, okay, let's go get him. He gets fired up, and I love it. So let's go.
Yeah. How often do you guys see Steve Amron, jumping up and down on the sideline in practice?
All the coaches, not in practice. But definitely in the games. If you could watch the sideline and be entertained all night, because all our coaches are. Especially
the Hudson's Bay last year. I look over the sideline. We hit John Roberts makes that amazing touchdown catch, and we're running over. Everyone's up and down, and we watched the film of it because we listened to the radio of it Saturday.
Okay.
And we see Coach Phillips get like 10 feet up off of here. Like, it was amazing. So, we know what they expect, and it's just fun.
Yeah, they definitely make it so everything you do, you go out here and you work hard, but it's all still fun at the same time, so it's worth it.
Okay. And on the other side of the ball, we used last week against Prague as an example. There wasn't much they could do. And again, I know that the line played a big part in that, but obviously guys have to cover and guys have to tackle. What's the feeling like, especially after forcing 3 now?
It's like, if our coaches preach everybody do your job, so we know if everybody's going to do their job, then sometimes they're going to get something, but after 3 and outs, it's just like, we listened and we accomplished what we were working for. So.
Okay. I mean, when we get 3 out, I love looking over the sideline and see Christ. It's like, yes, like, let's go. Like, what practice paid off. Like, I mean, I love that face. He just goes, he's so excited, he gets all right in. I mean, it's like a good confirmation to us that we're doing our job and we're out there, they're doing what they're preaching. So.
And as linebackers, how much time do you guys think extra time, compared to D lineman and DB, whatever? How much extra time do you guys spend together?
I mean, we spend a lot of time together. I feel like, I mean, we're always hanging out on the weekends. We have classes together, so we're always like, we'll be like talking about play, or just like talk about, I mean, life stuff. But I mean, it's fun. It's fun just hanging out with the guys. It's like,
and it's not just, that's kind of like our whole team too. Like, we'll get guys and we'll sit together for 7 hours on a day and just play poker.
Yeah, like, I mean, we love poker.
Yeah. So we're always.
Who's the best card player on the team?
As of late, I mean, I just went back to back.
I mean, so. It's debatable. I mean, we throw an 8th grader in there too, so.
Yeah, my little brother.
He likes coming to play. I mean, he's not bad at all out there. I mean, we don't like calling everybody out, but everyone's pretty equal. I feel like so. For debate.
There's no equal in poker.
There's some mind games going on, just like on the football field.
Graham gets the most upset, probably.
Yeah.
He would admit that too. So.
Yeah.
Who's the most egregious bluffer? Like, who's the guy that's like?
I mean, I do win too, so they never know.
You never know if he's bluffing really, but all the times that he does try, somebody always has something. So when they call him, oh my gosh,
I get three of kind, and then he pulls a full house on their freaking river, and it's not good.
It's definitely a bluff.
Do you guys use math in that? Are you guys able to kind of figure out, okay,
I mean, I've watched some YouTube videos. I mean, there is some.
No, we play a lot. We play a lot, so it's not like we don't know what we're doing. So.
Yeah. Is it just as competitive as?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's money on the line, people get feisty.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get like, I don't know. It's not really like everybody's so serious. Like you have Dylan Davis doing like push-ups when that's just him. So it's just everybody's having a good time. And, like there's not really a lot of like poker playing compared to just everybody just messing around.
Yeah.
Okay. And so kind of getting back to football a little bit. What's the toughest part about playing
linebacker? I think the toughest part is just, well, as of like, you just have to make sure everybody knows and you just communicate like what the play is, the strength, and just make sure everybody's on the right page. And then on top of that, you have to read the play. You got to know if you should be scraping or going to run or pass. And, yeah, there's just a lot. The whole position it's tough, but it's fun.
I definitely agree with everything Riley said. Like you like. I struggle with it a lot, I feel like, because the linebacker, I mean, I wish I was a free safety. I love being able to see the quarterback and knowing, oh, he's already handed the ball off. But there's a lot of, you got to watch the slot, watch the high ball, low ball, and sometimes I get it wrong, and I'm like, oh, and then you're running back late. But, I mean, it's one of the most challenging spots, I say, in football.
Right. I think anybody who knows football probably agree. I mean, safety, like you said, you have some room for error. You got to do a lot of things, but you have that 15-yard cushion.
Yeah.
A linebacker, your cushion is so small that it's almost not a cushion. And so how, what's the toughest test for you guys been in that regard? As far as, hey, I stepped 2 feet this way, and then the guy went the opposite way. What's the toughest part been so far?
I think the toughest part of playing linebacker, especially when you're outside linebacker because you have so much to cover, is probably play action. That's probably the toughest.
I totally agree.
You get the low ball read and you want to fly up, but then when they pull it, then you got to get out of there. So
definitely. Guarding those passes is definitely hard.
But it helps when you have the line we have because, I mean, it just gets we get pressure almost every play, so play action takes a little while to develop.
And we just sack them, so it's all good for us.
Right. Okay. And as far as tackling goes, especially over the last couple of years, tackling's changed so much. When I was a kid, 50 million years ago, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, it was like, watching guys like Ray Lewis, there's a lot of names, Ronnie Lott's another one, just even the perfect hit looked pretty vicious. But how much have you guys had to relearn tackling from middle school to now?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed, but in the game, I think tackling, like, if you just make it an emphasis to not lead with your head, then everything will be fine. Because that's the biggest emphasis in the NFL, just all throughout football. So
the NFL's got to do
it. You can't fall on the quarterback anymore.
Yeah. Tackle the guy, but don't.
Yeah, but don't injure him because he's worth millions of dollars.
Yeah. I just think the leading with the head, that's the one that can be prevented, but like falling on a guy, that's not. That's football. Don't play.
Well, and again, there's it's a really slim difference between leading with the head like this versus, if you're running, you're going to be at a 45-degree angle. And so your head's going to be the first thing that at least encroaches into that space. Might not hit the guy, but at that point, an effective tackle has it been hard to? Let me change this. Actually, has it been hard to understand the rules with that, having all that stuff, and then thinking, well, don't lead with your head, even though you should be kind of.
As long as you're not targeting their head, I feel like. If I'm not gonna go over and be like, man, let's headbutt each other, and try to tackle them,
I don't know. When you're in the moment, everybody's going full speed. It's not like you're going over the rule book in your head. You're just thinking about how can I I'm just gonna tackle this guy. So when it happens, if you're not gonna be able to totally prevent contact to the head, that's not. But it's just different. You got to kind of just keep your head on the play. So.
Okay. And then the other thing in that regard that I was wondering about is, when I was a kid, it was all about putting your helmet on the football.
Yeah.
And has that changed in the last couple of years?
I don't feel like.
In middle school it was helmet to the football, but now they just teach helmet to the side because if you're running, if you're going towards the sideline, it's so hard to get your head across. Yeah. So now they just teach head to the side just to keep it out. But
helmet to the football causes a lot more fumbles, I feel like. But it's not the most ideal way of tackling in the moment. If you're coming at someone from the side, it's you're trying to get your head all the way on the side, but tackle them.
Right. Okay. And then what's something that you wish more people, and especially people watching, understood about the position that might not know a ton about football?
I think people that don't know football don't realize how hard it is to bring someone down. That person that's running the ball is equally just trying to stay up. And so when you have two people going at it like that, the people in the stands think that the person tackling should make the play, and then opposite, if you're an opposing fan or something, you don't expect the guy to go down. So people that haven't played football don't really understand that part of it.
Also, all the decision making you have to make is, they don't understand that. Oh, how come like in basketball, there's a play we're gonna run this play. You do your job, but then also you don't know what the other team is doing. So you have, gets 2-3, oh, we're gonna run a zone offense, and then a blitz. And blitz is different because you're manned up, but in a cover 3 situation, is it a run? Is it a pass? What am I doing? So it's kind of a.
And I don't know, if you haven't played the sport, you think throwing a football can be easy.
Right.
So as a quarterback, if they miss a throw or something, they're like, how'd you miss that throw? But that's quarterback's the toughest position in the game. But Marshall does a great job, and it's nice to have him as a quarterback. I've been lucky enough to have AJ and Marshall. It's made my job a lot easier.
Yeah, so, I bet. Okay. And then what are you guys' expectations for the rest of the season?
I want to get that league title very badly.
I think once we get that league when we get that league title.
When we get it.
Confident.
Yeah, so once we get that league title, I think taking it one game at a time, to not just limit ourselves to that one, just get to that point and be like, oh, we've accomplished our goals. No, we want to go farther than that and take it one game at a time and really challenge ourselves.
Okay. All right. That's all I got for you. Anything you guys want to add?
This guy's a bluffer.
I'm a bluffer.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get in on one of these games.
There.
I don't know if you want to. It's tough.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us, and I appreciate it. And yeah, see you guys. I'll be there on Friday. So, yeah, see you guys then.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having us.
He's coming back.
Got to add something, and this is important since we're talking about football. And since we were talking about linebackers, this is a big thing to me. It's the same thing I like to tell my kid at night when he refuses to go to sleep, which is every night. So it's not how tired you are, it's how tired you're making everybody else. And we're done.